Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Your Brain on Hops. I am Chris, and with me I have Alex and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
I'm good.
Dan's good, everyone. So today, for this episode, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be breaking it up into two parts. Part one is we're going to be talking about a brewery, and part two, we're actually going to be recording live from Beerology, taking place in Buffalo Museum of Science. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Bear with us on the audio.
So, yeah, it's going to get choppy there, but we're going to announce when that's going on. But for part one here, we're going to be drinking Against the Grain Brewery and talking about these beers. Fantastic can art, bottle art, art across the board.
I think the first time I saw their can art, it was literally the main character. I don't even know the name. I haven't even looked it up. But their main character is just kind of this redneck-looking dude with a mustache made out of hop cones. And the first can art I saw was just him holding was a sheep with a ball gag in his mouth. And I'm just like, who puts out a beer that looks like this? But yeah, I really want to drink this beer. This can is phenomenal.
Well, that's the thing. If you put that kind of stuff on cans, but you have a shitty beer, I mean, no dice. It's like, you're more into the can art than you are into the beer. But they make awesome beer as well.
Well, in a way, this is a shitty beer.
Excellent segue, Alex. The first beer we're drinking is called the Brown Note. It's exactly what you're thinking. If you don't know what the Brown Note is, go Google it. Just pause the podcast because we're going to keep talking in the meantime. And speaking of can art, right now I'm staring at a man's backside with underwear that are not clean.
He's just shitting himself.
There's a note of brown.
He has shat himself and is holding a roll of toilet paper.
And that's some like real deep brown on those underwear. So that's like in there. Like there's some real shit in there. It's coming through.
I was going to leave it be, but I'm glad you went in depth into the underwear shit.
I just realized the one little detail on this can is if you look at what would be his right hand, there is no right hand. And underneath it, it just reads Phantom Wipe.
Well, that's something I don't really want to think about too much. I'm going to leave it be until it pops into my mind.
Keep finding little details.
Really? Outside of the can, or I guess from inside the can, great beer so far.
We're talking about inside his can?
No. You know what? I'm disappointed I didn't see it. Thank you for pointing that out.
But overall, it's a really good beer.
But overall, the drinking experience is pretty great. Yeah, a lot of caramel. Well, yeah,
so good it'll
caramel
make you shit
and toffee
yourself.
in here.
Caramel toffee. There's a hint of chocolate.
Yeah,
the color is beautiful too. It's like brown with leaning towards like a garnet.
I know, it just stopped. We're just drinking beer now.
That's a good beer.
Not too heavy either. I mean, it is a brown ale, so it's not going to be that heavy, but it's only 5% ABV. So you could drink a good amount of this, and
it is quite drinkable too.
I like the fact that they took a traditional brown ale that is really British, and then they screwed with it, fucking with tradition again, just to say fuck you to the Brits.
That's a really good point. So from their website, I just want to read the bit about that because it is fantastic. Hops are mostly traditional earthy British hops, but we cocked it up a bit with some Cascade late in the boil just to show those snooty Brits that we don't approve of the constitutional monarchy crap. I mean, that just good for them.
Just shitting on their monarchy.
That's fantastic can, fantastic copy, fantastic beer. It's
I love how they say
triple
we
threat.
cocked it up a bit. That's such a British term, and I like the caution at the top there too.
Yeah. So good it will make you shit yourself.
Obviously,
I mean, so far,
had a few.
yeah.
It's a good thing we're only having one.
No shit yet, but it's early. I still have a glass to go.
Early night.
Yeah.
What I'm more afraid of is actually on the can. It actually, when they give a description on the can, it's different from what their website is. And the last line is the brown note. drink this beer or shit yourself trying. Well, I'm drinking it, and I didn't do that.
Yeah, they definitely kept the theme going and everything for this.
I think they just hope everyone gets so drunk that they do shit themselves and then writes in their stories.
They're just trying to put a book together called The Brown Note.
I would never want to see that coffee table book. Ever.
When you open it, it just starts playing a brown note.
Squishy brown cover. Just Polaroids. Many just dark Polaroids.
Alright, we're going into some dark territory here. I'm going to try to bring it back to the beer.
Shame. So much shame.
Alex, you did mention that it's very drinkable. And that is true. I've had some brown ales which I've enjoyed, but I didn't necessarily want a second one. With this one, I could drink a bunch of these.
Yeah.
Which is impressive for a brown ale.
Right, and it's what, 5.5%?
5%.
5 even? Yeah, 5 even. Yeah. And I mean, coming in a 16-ounce can, too. I could easily put a 16-ounce can away.
We just put away 2.
Yes, we did.
Mm.
Pretty quickly, too. I mean, I know I'm empty.
I'll be empty very soon.
I mean, once it hits your lips, it's so good.
Does not taste like shit. Mm.
I kind of want to go leave a review for this beer. That's just, it does not taste like shit. And speaking of which, these did go pretty quickly. So let's move on to the second Against the Grain beer. And the next beer we have here is 35K. This one's a stout, so we're still in the darker range, going from a brown ale to a stout. But oh my gosh, is this thing milky?
Yeah, it is.
It's really good.
This is the milkiest milk stout I've ever had in my life. And I've had quite a few milk stouts in my life, as my Untapped profile can attest. And this is just
It's a good
so
one.
Creamy.
Yeah, it is.
It's insane.
I tell you one thing, though. After a bottle of this, I don't want to run 35K.
No. Well, I think that was
Before a
more
bottle
towards
of this,
monetary
I don't want to run
value.
35K.
That's true, too.
It's more towards monetary value than just it.
Yeah.
And if you ever had to run a 35K, I feel so sorry for you.
And again, beautifully disturbing bottle art. I'm staring at a couple skull people. Got some tattoos. Got a little baby with a beard. Money
Licking
going
a skull
everywhere.
lollipop.
Oh yeah, that is a skull lollipop, isn't it?
I finally, you know what, for all the verbiage that they, and, you know, the wording on the bottle, I find it really odd that they went with that artwork, considering they put so many nods to Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation in their paragraph.
I like the tattoo on his left forearm. It just says "regretful tattoo."
Oh, makes you wonder about the story of how that tattoo got there.
Some guy drew it, Chris. Some guy drew it.
So we're not really going too far up in ABV with this guy. We're going to 7%.
Up to 2 notches.
Yeah, 2 notches. 2 notches up.
Yeah, he's
But
holding
still,
a handgun right by the child.
Yeah, I mean, skull people do
Yeah,
that.
skull people do that. Although the child is kind of a full-grown man with tiny, stubby legs.
Maybe it's not a child.
He's got a full beard.
Maybe it's just a new species of smaller bearded men children. I don't know.
We have a name for those type of people.
You know,
But not that small.
Oh, okay.
That's why I said new.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
you know what my favorite thing about this bottle though is when you ever get a stout, most of them say it's it's a stout aged in barrels or vanilla, or it's a milk stout, or it's an imperial or something like that. No, this bottle literally just says stout beer.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all it gives you.
I do like that.
Simplicity at its finest.
So one thing I wanted to bring up on this podcast here is I read an article recently. It was in the Wall Street Journal. As I've mentioned before, they've been doing an impressive amount of articles on beer, mostly in the weekend editions. But basically, this article here is on best beers to pair with shellfish and seafood in general. So they talk about pairing beer with food in general, seafood a bit, mostly leaning towards the sour ales. Not too sour, but that kind of sour, briny kind of ale. And then they list some that are good recommendations or beer that was specifically designed for it.
What do they have for crap?
So they don't go through specific specific shell food, more just beers that could go with the general seafood style. So they have Ballast Point, Piper Down.
Haven't had it.
Mayflower, Summer Belgian. I'm not sure if we have Mayflower in New York.
I've never seen it.
Nightshade Harborside.
I know who it is.
Allagash Hoppy Table Beer. That one we've had.
See, here's the thing. If you're talking seafood, like, for the longest time, I remember when craft beer was getting big. If there's a seafood dish, the first thing I would see is Belgians. And whites. And there was usually used in a lot of the cooking and stuff like that. Mussels, things like that. You were trying to get that little bit of spice. And the citrus played very, very well with it. So, but in terms of, and like I use a lot of beers in cooking, but when it comes to drinking and pairing, it's kind of a catch-22. If you have something to pair it with, like if you used it and you've got other flavors integrating it from the dish itself, getting the beer as a side taste to see if you can bring something out of that dish more is going to be great. But if you're just there to enjoy something, drink whatever the fuck you want. That's what really matters.
That's a good point. And a lot of times I've had seafood, especially out at like a seafood bar or getting it with friends. I'm mostly they're more independent activities. It's more I'm hanging out, getting a beer, and just that we get
you're there to enjoy
plate
yourself.
Of clams or a plate of whatever to split. And yeah, to enjoy. So that's a good point. I've really never thought about pairing a beer with a specific seafood dish before.
Depending on where you are, like, I mean, if they have an awesome beer menu, like if
Griffin Pub.
I was just about to say Griffin. Mm-hmm. If you're at Griffin and you sit down and you have something like that, like they have a large selection. So
but a lot of the
times,
times,
think you would want to try and pair a little bit?
Well, yes and no, but a lot of the times the menu, like Griffin does, like their menu caters to their beer. So I've looked at a lot of their dishes and it literally says, hey, pair this with maybe this beer. But then if you read the description of the item, the beer's in the food. So it's like...
That's why they kick so quickly.
Yeah. Not to mention you can get a 22 ounce of KBS or something that might be not wanting to drink 22 ounces.
But if you do and we see you, we will judge you.
I will praise you if you can drink it and keep going.
So is the guy who drank how many pints of
the 120?
There were 10 ounces. There were 10 ounce glasses.
It doesn't matter how small
Three different bartenders
is
kept pouring them for me.
when you have 4 of them in a row. So
that's all I drank. That's all I drank.
Did he pound one of them?
Yeah. One of them went down quickly.
Oh yeah.
It's so smooth.
It is so smooth. So that might be on me, though, because I normally don't get... Well, if I get seafood, it's normally like a fish fry or something basic like that. I normally don't get a seafood-based platter if I'm at a dinner place. It's mostly like finger snacks if I'm out with friends. Mm-hmm. So that might be why I don't really look towards beers if I'm out at a place like that might have a good beer in their beer menu. One of the other beers that I wanted to mention here, though, which I was very intrigued by, but I've never had, is Sea Quench Ale by Dogfish Head. It's a combination of a Goza, Berliner Weiss, and Kolsch.
I thought you've had it.
No.
Really?
I love it.
It was very good.
I don't even remember seeing it in...
It showed up for a brief second, and it was gone. We had it at ABW, and it was...
That's where I got it.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It was super refreshing, and I'm not a big sour or Goza fan, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Was it black limes or something?
Mm-hmm. Gozas are one of those weird things. I have a lot of people that love... Like, sours are one of those big things right now, and I'm not... I don't want to say I'm not on board.
But Goza isn't necessarily supposed to be sour.
Though. Okay, now, I've had a lot of arguments with the people I work with, and I say sour or I say tart, and they're like, it's not sour, it's not tart, it's salty. And I'm like, well, there's supposed to be a saltiness to it, but I'm saying I'm getting tart. It's like, it's not tart. I'm like, okay, well, how do you want me to describe a lime or something like that? If there's something to it, salty. What do you want from me? So when I say sour and I say Berliner Weiss and Goses, I'm like, you're gonna understand when you take it to your lips and I say it's got some tartness to it. You should get that across your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, there's a lot, like the description here: salty Gose, sour Berliner Weiss, Straugold Kolsch, exotic twist from coriander and black Persian lime. That's a lot of stuff going on, and salty probably is one of the most accurate ways to describe all those things at once.
Yeah. And it did have a nice salty character to it.
Yeah.
That was one hell of a beer. And honestly, I would love to have that with crab legs.
Okay, so that was going to be my question.
Brininess of the sea, a little salty.
And the tartness and the effervescence would cut through the butter of the that you're dipping the crab legs into. So I think it would be a nice complement to not only the flavor of it, but even the mouthfeel. It would really just scrub the butter off your tongue, leaving you ready for another bite.
So I haven't had this beer, but you guys had. And when you had it, neither of you had it with seafood.
No.
I drank it.
No, but now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I need to find more of that because...
Yeah, and that was developed specifically for their seafood menu at the brew pub.
Oh, nice.
Dogfish has.
Ever since...
Nice, I didn't know that.
Ever since, about 2 years ago, and we've had him on the show, Greg Baker introduced so many other things to seafood other than butter. And, I've always put, butter's the classic,
Yeah.
But, one of my favorite things is clams. I can't put butter on clams anymore. It just doesn't work. So it's Worcestershire sauce and, ground, like, pâtés of kimchi and, hot sauces everywhere.
I've actually had a new appreciation of Worcestershire sauce within the past year or so.
Delicious anchovy.
I really have overlooked that
So
sauce
good.
in the past. But you're right.
But it pertains to the salty
hot
character.
sauce, the kimchi, yeah.
So I kind of tend to look at it, and I love citrus. That's one of my favorite flavors out there. When it comes to especially just desserts and foods, I would rather have something citrus based than anything chocolate or malty or something like that, or caramel based or something like that. So whenever I go for seafood or the summertime's coming up and things like that, I'm usually going towards Belgians and whites for seafood. I stick with it because it never really fails me. It's always delicious.
It's an excellent point, and let's keep this discussion of food and beer going, but I need an IPA next.
Oh, we're going IPA. Are we?
I might have lied. You know what? I did lie. I lied through my teeth. We're not doing IPAs next.
Screw IPAs.
Actually, Dan, I'll let you introduce this beer.
This is from their All Funked Up Wild series called Inner Sancrum. And it is a strong Belgian-style ale fermented with Brettanomyces, coming in at a little stronger, 8.7.
I like our upward trend.
And we opened the bottle, and that Brett definitely kicked in because it started gushing everywhere as I ran across the room to get it to a sink, and not on the recording equipment.
Which is really surprising, though, because it's not over-carbonated.
No.
Normally,
doesn't taste...
when something like something that's aged with Brett in the bottle and it overflows like that, I'm normally expecting it to be extremely effervescent, and this is not.
So I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of times, if you ever have a bottle like that, or you open it up and it does that weird reaction, my brain goes to, okay, something might be wrong here.
Yeah.
Now with Brettanomyces, now I might not get something wrong because we tasted it and I'm like, this tastes delicious.
It's phenomenal.
Like almost like a very strong cinnamon taste to it. I get out of it a very nice spice flavor profile. I think of.
It's one of the it's an ancillary profile though, not one that's in your face. It's if you recognize it, it's definitely there, but it's not going to. The cinnamon kind of flavor isn't going to overpower everything else.
It's got it's a 9. Yeah, it was aged for 9 months, and then it's a nice fruity kind of a plum kind of a taste to it.
Plum. I get dark cherry. It's
stone fruits. How about stone fruits?
Yeah, exactly. Dark stone fruits. Like, this beer is incredible.
But the beer, we wanted to talk about this because the look on Alex's face as he's drinking this beer is just he's perplexed. Like, how do I recreate this into a keg of my own.
And this is someone who's been BJCP trained, who's done competitions before.
I can see all these gears turning in his head. Like, I can hear it. Like, there's just... it's the questions. I just want to know everything about this. I'm deconstructing everything in my brain right now.
It really comes across as a Belgian double. And I don't know if that's because I have one on tap right now and I've really been enjoying it. But, like, it comes across as a Belgian double, a big Belgian double with Brett.
Well, Belgian-style Abbey Ale.
Which could be a double.
Yeah, which I'm actually looking at this, and their site has it sitting at a 7.2. The bottle has it sitting at an 8.7.
That's an interesting... Yeah, and speaking of the bottle, this bottle doesn't have an ass. It doesn't have shit stains. It doesn't have...
It is the classiest...
No tattoos.
No tattoos.
No tattoos at all.
No skulls. No baby skulls. No lollipop skulls. It's
honestly peeling of the skin. No brown notes.
I had to confirm that it was in fact an Against the Grain beer.
It is the classiest bottle that I think I've seen out of them.
I think it's incredible that Against the Grain makes us distinguish that, like, there's no asses or tattoos. Like, that this is still the same brewing company, yet there's no asses or tattoos or poop stains or skulls or, like, there's none of that.
It's kind of like it's kind of like we can be complete children, and then when we need to, we'll put on that shirt and tie, and we'll be the classiest motherfuckers possible.
Yeah.
This is classy ass beer.
This is the kind of beer you bring to a meeting of craft beer aficionados. Yeah. They respect the bottle. Yeah. They respect any kind of Brett beer that's done well is good, but this kind of Brett beer that has other notes as well than just the funk.
You could take this to a party and give this as a gift to your boss. You might not want to take the brown note.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, you could bring this to a group of people that really know what they're talking about when it comes to beer. They'll all really enjoy it and be like, wow, that was a really good beer. Have you had the one with the poop pants on it?
You start them off with this, and then you go, well, if you like this, get ready for this one. And then you slide like, why would you do this?
Have a brown note.
Because let's be honest, that 35K was phenomenal. And if I have to show a guy with a skull head carrying around a child licking a skull lollipop.
All right, so before we got onto this frankly phenomenal beer, we're talking about food and beer. Seafood in particular, but I know, Dan, you had mentioned something about other kinds of food and pairing up really well.
It was an article, as I go to it, because I gotta find it again. It was actually an article on the top 10 best beers to pair with brisket. And I kind of saved this article for myself, being the fact that I am a big fan of roasted meat. Actually, just meat in general, but in particular, barbecue.
I just had a thought that I want to pair this with your brisket, but then I was like, it might not pair well, but I just want to pair this with everything right now.
But I remember why I saved this article now. And I'm gonna stop after the first beer that pops up on this list, and I remember why I saved this article in particular, because the first beer that they mentioned was a beer that's true to my history of beer, but not one that I love. And that is Shinerbach.
I remember the famous Shinerbach incident.
The Shinerbach saga. That was not I have not a proud moment in my life, but one that it was a task that had to be done.
You sacrificed yourself.
Yes.
Much in the way
my taste buds.
of a fellow soldier throwing himself on an open grenade to save his
comrades. I threw myself on the sword. I threw myself on the unhopped flavored sword.
Yeah, so...
the dull blade that was Shinerbach.
Start over.
So, the backstory for our listeners
is Shinerbach was on tap. It just wasn't being kicked at all. And Dan, I mean, like a hero out of a medieval story. He's like, I've had enough. I'm gonna take this on. I'm gonna take on this quest.
I was given a partial challenge that was taken away.
And basically, he just kept going through pint after pint of Shinerbach just consuming it himself so that others wouldn't have to.
Until finally that keg was gone.
Until finally, we lost count of it. We started keeping track at first, like 5, 6, and eventually we're just like, you know what? We lost count. I mean, we were drinking too.
If I remember
so
the total,
was hard,
if I remember the total count,
counting gets hard.
Yeah.
I was there. I think if I remember the total tally, it was 16 pints
of Shinerbach.
Yeah.
Just getting it.
It was just I just kept going. I was like, nothing held me back, and I'm like, and I was getting asked, I was like, do you even like that? I'm like, no, I hate this. And surprisingly enough, I ran into the rep at one of the festivals. I saw him, and he was standing there, and he was serving Shinerbach. And I've had some of the Shiner beers that were actually kind of good. That was not one of them. And I was mad at him. And I was like, you have good beer, and you're giving this. And I'm like, I understand it might be a staple in Texas, or I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I said, and I told him the story. He goes, why are you telling me this? This is a horrible story. You should like, and I'm like, I'm telling you this because you need to know that you are serving a shitty product. And then I proceeded to take half his swag, and then I walked away.
Yeah, I remember it, like you two parting as friends, but I mean, if you think about it, Shiner, like it's in Texas, it's drank in the South a lot. A Bock beer isn't the kind of beer you think about when you think about Southern beers. I mean, it's a heavier, maltier kind of beer,
right?
And it's just not what you think. So in order for them to make a beer that's palatable to somebody in 90-degree, more arid temperatures, like the Bock itself just wasn't a good Bock. Which, like, if you live in Texas, maybe it's good drinking there because of the temperature and what you're accustomed to. But as far as drinking it up here and comparing it with Bocks that have been really well done, just not great.
Yeah. So surprising enough, as I was going through the list, and I noticed that there's a major characteristic of all these beers that they were going through, and it's the maltiness. It's that sugary characteristic, which is what you would probably want on the bark. You're caramelizing all those sugars on your brisket. You want that taste. So they had strong brown ales. Some of them I've never had before, and I won't go into those. But
I'm sure there's probably some porters and stouts in there.
They
too.
do.
That
actually,
rose
one
character
of them
accents the caramelized.
No, here's the thing. The one they had was Left Hand Milk Stout, the Nitro.
I can see that.
Now, Dan, is this drinking with the brisket, or is this to use on the brisket?
This is drinking with the brisket.
But if you're going to drink it with the brisket, you may as well use it on the brisket.
I mean, you might as well. But also, when you talked about caramelizing those sugars that might be in the beer, it seems like a lot of these would be really good, crisped up on the outside of a brisket.
Oh, hell yeah.
I could work that in, maybe on a barbecue sauce.
How about a 35K barbecue sauce?
Oh, I'll get going on that.
The milkiest brisket there is.
You know I love milky meat.
Get some of that milk steak.
But then
I'm gonna leave my comments on those. I'm gonna leave it alone.
They have Sierra Nevada coffee stout on here. Hofbrau Dunkels. Goose Island Nut Brown Ale. The Heffensteiner Hefe Weissbier, which is one of my favorites. Which does have, but that goes back to that spice character. So like that Hefeweizen, which is not what I would think they would, but it's the Dunkel, not the original, the Dunkel.
Oh, okay.
So
I love Dunkels.
It's going to that darker beer again.
Dunkels are really good with barbecue.
Scotch ale. They go. Lagunitas Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
Smutty Nose Old Brown Dog.
Old Brown Dog, I got one of those.
So,
okay, great.
And that's pretty much the list. But yeah, that was the common thing. It's like they're going for a body that's very heavy towards the malt side.
I wouldn't even go with necessarily heavy body, but it's that roast character. It's a little bit of caramelized sweetness within the beer that accents the barbecue, the charring on the outside of the brisket. It really helps to accent that, the roast character.
I think they actually did a pretty good job on that list. I'm like, you know what, I could tend to agree with you on, and I mean, it might change because you've got so many other spices now going to different pit masters that are doing different things. The only thing I disagreed with was the first one I saw was Shinerbach, and I was like, come on.
Well, you know what? There's only...
You vexed me again.
Your story about that Shinerbach, though, reminds me of a story from the Great American Beer Festival. I was walking around, and I turn a corner, and there is Shock Top. And they had people out front, like, giving out little things and saying, hey, will you, fill a little survey on our beer. And I was like, you don't want me to fill out a survey on your beer. I said that to this guy, and he was like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm not a fan. And he's like, oh, well, come over here. Just try one. And I was like, all right, fine. And personally, I am not a fan of Shock Top at all. At all. He grabbed my glass, and he filled it up, and then I took a sip, and I'm like, what the hell is this? It was a chocolate-covered banana wheat beer.
Well, that's
now
interesting.
That's something completely
phenomenal.
Different than what you see on the shelves
Really?
here.
Yeah,
of just
exactly.
the orange.
We don't get that kind of stuff.
The orange, the raspberry,
right?
Super fruity, sweet.
Exactly. And the ones that I've had from them, I've never been a fan. Mm-hmm. But I tasted this, and I took another sip, and then another sip. I looked at the guy, and I just put my hand out, and I'm like, "Thank you for changing my mind about your company, because this is really good. Produce more like this and put it out to the public. I might buy some."
Now, do you know, was that just like a small batch they were doing for the Great American Beer Festival, or is it just not available in New York, and that's why we haven't seen it?
My guess is it was like a brew pub exclusive type thing that just went crazy there, and so they saved a few for the Great American Beer Festival. That would be my take on it, but I can't see them actually doing large quantities of it.
Yeah,
but it was phenomenal.
See, I'm glad because that was a beer that I've seen many times. I don't gravitate toward it. But I remember it was out, and I've had Shock Top before. But as my palate changed, so did my perception. And I'm like, yeah, it's not my thing anymore. Problem was with Shinerbach, there was a massive hype around when they were coming to the coast of distribution, and I had it. And there was some I actually liked Shiner's. I think it's their white. I think it was, and I liked it. The Shinerbach, I was not a fan of, and I kept hearing that name, like, oh yeah, the Shinerbach's coming. Like, this is a staple, and I'm like, oh okay, it's got to be good. I'm thinking, so many people's like, no, not good. I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. I'm like, this is the definition of alcohol abuse. I'm literally doing this so that you leave the board.
You're
so that
abusing yourself with alcohol.
Yes, so I can get something better than what this is, because it refuses to leave and nobody wants it.
Do they have one fucking tap at this place?
No, it
wasn't about that. It was about that I wanted it gone because I
more?
knew something could go better, and I think there might have been something going on after that's like, I want that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah,
because I've done that before.
Mm-hmm. It was like, I'm throwing the gauntlet down. Let's do this.
All right, wait. Before we go on to the gauntlet stories, I'm out. So let's move on to those IPAs that I mentioned last time.
I don't remember.
So this IPA,
we did have a story.
Don't worry, Dan. Okay. I got this.
We'll cut it in Future Chris.
So we moved into the IPAs here. We're drinking Pile of Face. Yeah.
We're back to the weird cans.
We're back to the weird cans.
Nipples are out.
We're gonna
nipple.
Okay, sorry.
Like 1.5 nipples.
Weird tattoos
1.5.
of rainbows. There's a duck
I guess so. I guess you got a little area there.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's got a tattoo that says tat 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 tit tat.
Where's that?
It's on his.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Yeah,
okay. Literally above his other nipple.
He has a tattoo of a knife with going through a little thing that says "ouch." He has the hop cone mustache that appears to have been muddied by the pile of faces that he's digging through,
and a black rainbow with and right next to him is a lovely. The only skull is a duck skull.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in this can,
and he's sifting through a bin of what is mushy faces, and the creepiest thing is surrounding the pile, or no, the bucket, is literally piles of mushy faces and eyeballs. I just noticed the eyeballs.
Yeah, they're not firm faces of eyeballs and faces. They're mushy piles.
It's a pile of faces.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a world where all the skulls are being used up, which I don't know why they're being used up.
It's a metaphor, Dan.
We're left with nothing but piles of face. but fear not, that's where the story is truly told. Oh, is it now?
They're telling truth through beer.
Well, their truth is gospel in my book.
Well said.
I like how he has a tattoo of hops across his hand. It just says hops.
Yeah.
Pile of Face is the institution of American IPA with all the character and drinkability you would expect as we celebrate American indulgence. Here's to indulging yourself.
Speaking of indulging, I want to indulge in a bit of story that we were talking about before.
You want to go back to that now?
I want to go back to that. I was really curious. We were talking about kind of, falling on one sword, but then kind of just like running through a beer, getting it off a tap. But anyway, Alex said that he had a story that he wanted to follow that up with.
Yeah, I was in New Jersey, traveling for work.
So I want to go there.
Do you?
I have my reasons. Don't judge me. I'm a Kevin Smith fan. Don't judge me.
But
I have places to go, things to do.
I was there for 3 weeks, and
okay, that's way too long.
Yeah, yes, it is. But the restaurant and bar right next to the hotel I was staying in was really awesome because they had a ton of craft beers, and they were consistently changing.
Very cool.
They had a Dogfish 90-minute on tap, and they were waiting for it to kick to put the 120 on.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
So
I'm torn.
I literally went in there almost every single day of the week, and one night all I did was drink the 90-minute. I had an appetizer, and $65 of my expenses later, I cashed out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to bed after drinking that much 90-minute. Because I'm like, I need to kick this damn keg by the end of the week so I can drink my face off with some 120.
So, wait, you were there for 3 weeks and the keg wouldn't kick in 3 weeks to get the 120?
It started, I think it started maybe the second week, nearing the end of it. So I knew going into the third week that I was like, this is the week. I have to kick this keg.
I'm hoping,
time. And I was even hoping that by the time I got back on Monday, it would already be kicked, and I'm like, 120, sweet, all week. No, because it took me until Friday to actually kick that keg, because no one else was freaking drinking it.
See, that's really sad that no one was drinking the 90-minute, but
yeah.
In terms of the beer, like Dogfish just put out their cans, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah.
But the 90-minute is kind of an overlooked. I think it's actually, to me, it's actually a little too much sometimes. It's really odd. I love the 60. The 75, for some reason, is super flavorful. The 90 is very strong and bitter. And then the 120 goes down smooth like water. The 90-minute, for some reason, is a breaking point for me.
See, the 90-minute is one of my favorite IPAs.
Really?
It is. I find it, not only delicious as an IPA, like the bitter resinous flavor, really everything about it, but I also find it very drinkable. That's why I'm so proud that you,
I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you. But now, here's the thing. It's a catch-22. You are crushing, or you're trying to go through so much of something that is delicious, but you're trying to get to something that is also delicious or better than. I'm commending you, but at the same time, I'm like, did you miss out on just enjoying yourself
a little
no.
bit? I enjoyed that.
But did you get your 120? Now, hold on. You didn't say it officially. Did you get your 120?
Oh, yeah, I got the 120.
Okay, then fuck everything. You did great.
It was the last day, and the keg still wasn't kicked because nobody was drinking it. And
I'm just disappointed in New Jersey.
Yeah, that is disappointing.
This was like the second.
Sorry, Kevin.
The second trip that I've been back to that same hotel, same area. So they already knew me at the bar because I hung out there because they have such a great beer selection.
Do you remember the name of the bar?
It was an Uno's.
Was not expecting that at all.
Yeah. It was an Uno's in Deptford, New Jersey. I hope somebody in that area is listening.
They probably aren't.
I had gotten to know all the bartenders. That's one reason I went in there so often, was because they were all amazing people, great beer selection. The food was, for a chain, I was blown away that the food was actually that good. I was very surprised that for a chain that they actually produced really good food. And after all that time that I had been there, drinking all that beer, the bartenders actually went to the manager and said, "This is his last night here, and he's not coming back. We need to take the 90-minute off and put the 120 on." And they actually did that for me.
Oh, so you didn't actually kick the 90?
Didn't actually kick the 90,
but they saw your effort during the week.
And they liked
and they wanted to reward that effort.
Yes.
I like that.
And so they took it off.
Okay.
The last night I was there, I had 2 90s, and I asked them, how much is left in this damn keg? Because I'm done today. I'm out of here. I need to have one. And they went and they checked, and there's still a bit in there. I don't think you'll kick it tonight.
And we're rocking and rolling.
If you want to
Indeed we are, Dan. We have our last beer here.
Shut up, Chris. Sit your ass down.
Well played.
He's already sitting.
God damn it, Alex. You ruined the audio illusion.
Our listeners don't know if we're sitting or standing.
That's the beauty of it. We have to tell a story. We have to put an image in their mind.
But apropos of Dan's commandment to sit down, we're drinking our last beer of the evening, which is an IPA from Against the Grain Brewery called Citra Ass Down. And like most of their beers, this is indeed an irreverently named beer with an irreverent can label on it.
With an irreverent ostrich with a mohawk.
But no nipples.
That is true.
No nipples on this.
You know he's playing with his nipple deep down.
In his mind. He's
but normally on the cans, he's physically playing with his nipples. He's not mentally playing with his nipples.
We did Pile of Face, and he's got the dagger going through his arm tattoo that says ouch, and this time he's got an actual arrow going through his arm with a tattoo that says ouch. I want to know where this guy gets his tattoos done.
I do love continuity. Also, is it just me, or do these characters... I don't know. For whatever reason, these characters remind me of Rick and Morty. It might be the dead eyes,
the eyes.
More basic cartoon outline.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally see it.
I swear, though, if I ever see an Against the Grain can that has actual Rick and Morty characters on it, I'm just going to buy all of them that I can see.
Now, would you say... Now, this beer literally says, sit your ass down and crush this beer. And I hate this phrase, but would you say this beer is crushable?
Wait, no. On our last podcast, we established that crushable is an okay word to use.
Did we? Because I still hate it.
Really? You do?
I consider it crushable.
I discovered this while drinking a beautiful beer from Thin Man that we have on tap at ABW.
Very friendly?
Yes. Very friendly. Delicious.
I had that at Thin Man a couple nights ago.
Just hazy.
It is delicious.
It is phenomenal. And someone brought up the word crushable, and I'm like, you shut your mouth. But it's so tasty, and I'm like, then fine, just say it's tasty. But when you said crushable, I just got into a rage.
That's a trigger for you?
I don't...
Crushable. See, and that's
a weird
that's
word.
part of the last podcast discussion we had about it as well, is you associated it more with frat boys, with shitty beer, macro brews. Bros crushing it.
Come on, bruh.
I never
Crush
really,
it, man.
I never really experienced that.
Throat.
So when I think crushable, honestly the first things that come to mind are citrus tropical IPA, because that's the primary beer that I've heard described as crushable. And I do love crushing the shit out of those beers.
I love drinking those beers. I love the drinkability, but I can't use drinkability in a proper phrase to describe how much. But when I say crushable, I get angry with myself. Like the slip of the tongue, I'm like, fuck me.
Well, I mean, you don't want to turn to self-loathing with beer. Beer is a free space that you can.
Do you know how often I've turned to self-loathing with beer?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, come on. It's what I do best in my life.
I'm trying to stick to a theme, guys. Against the Grain Brewing. They're not looking for judgment. They're doing what they want
Really?
to do.
Have you seen these cans?
Exactly.
There's all judgment.
There's
but they're putting it out
There's
there.
There's no judgment.
Not giving a shit about anything.
They don't give a shit what people think or judge about their cans. They
tried to live
put
my life
dirty
that way.
underwear on their cans, and they're like, deal with it.
And
Drink it or don't drink it.
this dude has a fucking mace in his hand, and he's like, "Sit your ass down."
Yeah, this is
Is it
not
just
a
me,
man
or
who
does that,
cares what
does
people
that
think
look
of
like
him.
an orange?
Yeah, it looks like an orange.
I think it's
because
an orange.
Citra has a lot of orange
Sexual
to it.
oranges.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just like the ostrich.
With the arrow
Ostrich.
through his 2 arrows through its neck.
But I love the fact that he's squinting like, I'm taking it like an ostrich, motherfucker.
He's riding that ostrich.
Yeah, it's...
He is
You can see his legs.
It blends in very well.
Well,
The can is the same
you
color as
listeners
pants.
can't see his legs, but we can.
Look it up, fuckers. Read
Honestly,
a book.
just-
Check out the internet.
Their website is very, very good. Like I really like their website. So
That's true. We do normally comment on the brewery's website that we're going to, and we haven't done so yet. The website is excellent. They have excellent
This is
copy
fun.
for all their beers, and they have so many more beers than
There's
I
just
thought
a random
about.
picture of an Asian
And
man
a
that
lot
works
of
there.
really
It's
funny
phenomenal.
Yeah. All their beer names are... Like, none of them disappoint. You're going to have a good job reading just through this list. It's fun. But the overall website is great. I enjoy it. Go to it.
There's a list of about 18 available beers, but when you scroll down, the amount of beer that this brewery produces is astonishing, and I actually want to go there. I would love to see if they've got something that I can try that's not in store or something I might not get, because this is an impressive list.
I would love to go there. Against the Grain, if you're listening, let us know. We'll head down to the brewery, and we can set up a time to record. That'd
David
be
Lee
fantastic.
Froth.
yeah,
I mean,
we'd
come
love
on.
to record with you guys.
Although, listeners, even if you don't go to the... Well, okay, first of all, go to the website. It's the internet. Everyone has the internet nowadays.
Yeah.
But before
If
you
you
go to
don't,
the internet,
I
if
hate
you just
you.
Google Against the Grain cans and just look at the images that come up,
Yeah.
you're going to have a good time. Just don't do it at work, because you'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
They have
That's
a
true.
beer called I'll Be Black. Done.
Again, you'll get in trouble at work.
Yes. Don't put this on your work history.
All right, so let's wrap up this segment with Against the Grain Brewery. Fantastic
done,
beers.
motherfuckers.
I think you all know that we enjoyed those by now. But so the next
real.
part here, we're really going to go into Beerology here in Buffalo at the Buffalo Museum of Science. And this is actually the first time that Dan and I are going to Beerology. We are Beerology virgins, and Alex
Can't wait
is
to
a
pop this
Beerology
cherry.
slut, if you will.
Yes.
You
He's
whore.
been to many of them.
Truth. Truth.
Teach us your ways.
And I've enjoyed every single time. It's actually my favorite beer festival in Buffalo.
That's a tall order. There are a good number of quality beer festivals in Buffalo nowadays.
There are, but there's none that you can walk around a museum, the Buffalo Museum of Science, and walk around and there's exhibits. So you're drinking a beer and you're walking around a museum, and there's an interactive area that you can walk through that has tables where breweries are set up. So you can grab a beer and then go and do some of the science stuff that's in that area. And you can just walk around and drink beer and do that kind of stuff.
So it's a geeky paradise, kind of.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Well, the big thing is that that guitar, that ginormous guitar, which I'm kind of interested in seeing, and I just know it's going to be jam packed with people just fiddling with it. So
Yeah, most likely.
I'm just going to probably avoid it.
Yeah, but Beerology is 3 hours, 4 hours if you have a VIP ticket. Like, I'm sure you're going to be able to get to the guitar at some point.
I haven't been to the Buffalo Museum of Science since I was a kid, when my dad took me. So
You're going to love it.
I'm super excited to see things that I remember as a child, and I'm like, now I'm an adult, and I'm possibly tipsy. And if that rhino is not there, I'm really mad.
Possibly.
You're not doing it
Come
right.
on.
I plan to ride that plastic rhino if it's still there. I have a feeling it's not, because probably some kid destroyed it, and I remember the Buffalo Museum of Science. They had one room, and it was, as you were walking by, you would walk down, and they had this heavy-duty, ginormous, life-size scale plastic rhino. But as time went on, I got older, I realized parents have no control over their children, and they're just children hanging off the horn and just climbing all over it.
Yeah, that's children.
I am now 31. I have not been there since I was probably 12. And I am probably thinking that rhino is no longer there or has been vandalized.
I don't remember a rhino.
So I'm going to be very sad to not see that rhino if it's not there.
I'll be honest. We've talked more about rhino than I thought we would.
What's wrong with the rhino?
You were this.
I have hopes.
Left an important mark on 12-year-old Dan.
The Buffalo Museum of Science.
Now I want to go around the museum and find a rhino.
I want to find the rhino now.
I hope to find the rhino. It's the Buffalo Museum of Science is one of those things that my dad constantly tells me. And the reason I bring this up, my dad just turned 89 today. So when this comes out, it'll be weeks. But so for me, I'm going back to something that resonated with me. I have a lot of memories back then. So I'm looking forward to having a beer and like looking around like, man, this place has fucking changed.
Yeah, I'm really excited because the idea of doing it, like, it's not just as in Buffalo Museum of Science says, we have an empty room, we're going to have some tables. It's actually in the museum itself. Yeah. And like Alex was talking about, there's exhibits going on. Of course, like the beer-related stuff, there's a few talks, a few interactive stuff. Each table can do their own thing. But then it's also the museum itself that's going on, which I think is just a fantastic idea. So I'm pretty psyched to experience this.
There's snack foods and Sultans of Swig, Buffalo Beer Goddesses, the Niagara Association of Homebrewers will be there. I believe at this point it is sold out, unfortunately.
Yes.
So if you have not gotten your tickets, not that they aren't out there. If there are people that are probably selling them and trying to get, that couldn't go, unfortunately. But going through the site.
But this will be airing after.
To be fair, Dan, everyone listening.
So it doesn't matter. So fuck all of you.
So my favorite thing about this whole thing is actually the talks that are the little talks that are given in the theater area,
which I will not be paying attention to.
There's usually 3 of them. They're like 20 minutes to a half an hour long, and they're all about beer and the science behind beer. And that's what this whole thing is, Beerology. It's the science of beer. And there's usually about 3 of them throughout the night, and they're phenomenal. Like I think 4 years now I've gone to this, and I've made it to every single one of them. And every single one of them has been very good. Like, on point, information is excellent. And it actually explains the science of beer. I mean, maybe I'm a beer nerd, but hey, well, no, I am a beer nerd. But yeah, I love it.
Do the drink tickets matter?
No. Not at all.
And that's all that matters.
As long
with
as
that, we end the show.
But there's the other thing, is that most of the breweries that are here are local.
Yeah. I'm actually interested in that.
It's not a lot of the big names. Like, you don't get I think Sam Adams is there this year, but you don't get the huge names that, like, everybody knows of. You're getting all the local beers that everybody knows of. You're getting all of them, and they're bringing new things to the table, not just their normal stuff that you go into the bar and drink.
I'm psyched about it, and with that, the next segment here is going to be us recording from Beerology. We're going to break it up into different segments, so we'll announce each segment as we come. But enjoy, everyone.
I'm super excited for this.
And as we just promised a few minutes ago, we're coming to you now from Beerology, Buffalo Museum of Science, and it is packed right now. It's a little bit after 7 that we're recording. Looks like it's a full event.
Everyone is just flooding in.
So we went to the Sultans of Swig area first, which will let Alex describe a little bit since he was helping run that.
Yeah, so what we did, we had a little tasting setup where we brewed quite a bit of beer. And we did an amber ale, we did a pale ale, and a stout. They were all the exact same beer, except one thing was different about one of them. So we gave tastings of all of these beers to actually Chris and Dan too. You guys did the tasting and failed.
I did. I failed magnificently. Dan failed barely.
I got 2 out of 3.
That's true.
What is this failure?
All right. According to New York State guidelines, Dan passed by a point and third, or 2/3. I failed magnificently. To be fair, I did a speed tasting where one drinks all the beer right in a row and then makes judgment calls. It's kind of like the way, yeah, so there we go.
I'm going by school rules. Anything above a 60 is passing.
You went to a very generous school if 60 was passing.
This private school.
Fair enough. Most people only got one right for the time that I spent there, and some people got 2, and there was only one person that got all 3 right so far.
I knew distinct characteristics, but I had no idea what you guys did. My mouth is better at food than it is at beer.
So I was really impressed by, I heard people going up, and some of them, well, like Alex said, most got 1 right, a bunch got 2. It was actually Scott Panfill, who does the West New York Brews podcast. So shout out, Scott. Good for you, man. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, I was too. When he brought it over and I looked at it, I was like, wait, you got them all right? You're the only one. And he was only the second person to get the pale ale right, which had the only difference in it was the water chemistry. We used tap water for one, and we added salts to the same tap water for the other one.
Yeah, so this isn't your father's craft beer tasting. There's some subtle differences going on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Alex, out of all the people you've gotten, how many people have really gotten water as a change?
There was 4 people
really?
at the time that I was there, and Scott was one of them. The other woman, I think she took a guess, and she just guessed right.
Liar!
The other 2, I believe they did the same thing.
And again, we're recording a little before 7:30, so if you got them all right, and you're like, why are those some bitches not talking about me getting them all right? It's because at this point, only one person's gotten them all right.
Exactly.
I'd like to point out that I had several IPAs before this tasting.
As is tradition.
So speaking of many IPAs, I think we should get some and talk to some of the brewers.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's walk around a bit and see what they have to say.
There's a bevy of brewers down there.
And we're at a new table now, and who are we talking to right now?
Tessa with 12 Gates Brewing Company.
Fantastic. And just talk about the beers that 12 Gates has tonight a little bit.
Sure. So Kathleen is pouring our apricot wheat, which is our new seasonal wheat that was just released last week. We changed over from the elderberry, but you can also catch the cherry vanilla wheat, which will be coming out in cans here soon. And our second beer that we're pouring is the Windforge IPA. So our flagship that most people have heard of is the West Coast style IPA, whereas this is a New England style, so it kind of is a little bit more hazy, a little bit more floral. And also we're doing a few samples of some other batches down here of the Yoga Pants, which is our American ale, American blonde, excuse me, the Grave Concerns Double Stout, the Triple, and the Coffee Porter as well.
Now, among the beers that you have here, which is an impressive list, most people only bring a couple, but 12 Gates really showed up. Do you have a favorite?
I'm really enjoying the Windforge. I've had a couple of those tonight.
I don't blame you there. That's the first one I started with, and it is impressive. So is this your first Beerology?
No, I came last year, but this is my first time with the brewery. Last time I was just bouncing around getting to enjoy the beers from all over, so I'm definitely looking forward to hitting that game plan here in a few minutes as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tessa.
Thank you.
All right, we're here with John from Buffalo Brewing Company. John, do you want to tell us a little bit about Buffalo Brewing Company?
So we started in July 30th of 2016, brewing small batch artisan ales and lagers.
Very cool, very cool. So this is your first time at Beerology then?
First time as a professional, yes.
Very cool, very cool. What do you think about the event?
It's awesome. It's one of my favorite events actually to do.
Yeah, same here, man. So what are you serving today?
We're serving 1804 Pale Ale and 1842 Vienna Lagers.
Very cool. Which one do you like to drink?
They're both really good. Both all-day drinking beers, and they're our number 1 and number 2 bestsellers at the tasting.
Awesome. Where are you guys located?
We're at 314 Myrtle Avenue between Larkinville and downtown.
Awesome, man. We'll be stopping in then.
All right, sounds great. Look forward to hearing from you guys.
All right, thank you.
Take care, man.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. If you can say your name.
Devin Carmen.
And what brewery are you working for?
Big Ditch.
Awesome. Now, is this your first Beerology?
It is my first Beerology working with Big Ditch.
So you've been to Beerology in the past?
Yes, I have.
I really want to cut through this formality. We know Devin really well.
And And what's been your favorite part about the whole Beerology beer fest as opposed to other beer fests in Buffalo?
I think what I like about it is the science aspect. I love that, everybody's here to drink beer and enjoy themselves, but learn something and try something new. I like that.
I definitely agree. I've been impressed by how many exhibits there's been here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all sorts of different displays, and the talks are always great. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm here with a couple of guys that are just enjoying the event today. And what are your names?
Slater. Sam. Fine.
So how are you guys enjoying the event? What have you had that you want everyone to know about?
Honestly, the Irish cream ale from Cage Ale from Milkiest is actually a lot more stout than I thought it was going to be.
Very cool, very cool.
The cream ale stood out for me as well.
What was that one by Sam Adams?
Yeah, the Citrus IPA.
Yeah, the Rebel Juice.
The Rebel Juice. Honestly, if they keep up the same quality, it'll be a good beer to slam in the summer.
Very cool. I had that the other day over at Ebenezer Ale House, and it was phenomenal.
Right, it was good.
Yeah.
Tasty. Sam Adams, no surprise. Yeah, no offense. Such a great brewery.
Well, thank you guys. Enjoy the event.
Thanks. Well,
You too, man.
And now we're here with Gordon Biersch, and who are we talking to right now?
Derek Ordway.
All right, pleasure to meet you. And talk to us a little bit about the beers you have here today.
Today I brought a Mosaic Session IPA with very fresh Mosaic hops and an Irish Red for the season.
And is this your first Beerology?
No, it's my second, actually.
Have both of them been with Gordon Biersch?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So have you gotten a chance to walk around a little bit, go to the exhibits?
Yeah, I've walked around, tried other people's beer. There's a lot of great beer and try, so it's cool to see what people brought.
So we're at the Long Trail booth now, and talking to, if you can say your name.
Shawn Rosowitz.
All right, nice to meet you, Shawn. And Long Trail, just tell us a little bit about the brewery.
Sure, yeah, Long Trail's been the #1 craft brewery in Vermont for 27 years. It started with our Long Trail Ale. Now we've, kind of reinvented ourselves, a lot of new kind of exciting products, and we're distributed in 13 states. So
awesome. Is this your first Beerology?
this is actually probably like my 5th or 6th Beerology. So I've worked for the brewery on and off for about 5 or 6 years. So I've done this event every year that I've worked for the brewery. So
it's awesome. So you're a veteran here. So what kind of beers did you bring today?
I brought, from Long Trail, I brought our Citrus Limbo, which is our Limbo IPA is our #1 seller in the Western New York market. We actually enhanced it with some grapefruit and tangerine, really kind of exciting take, kind of a new breed of IPA. And then our sister company, Otter Creek Brewing, also a Vermont brewery, we brought our Free Flow IPA, which is kind of new to that IPA standard, really hazy, really juicy, but really crushable at the same time. So.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for talking to us, and enjoy your 6th Beerology here.
We'll let you get back to serving the people.
Thanks. And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Our featured brewery today was Against the Grain, and then we split it up a little bit, trying something new, where we talked about the brewery. Then we had the live recordings from Beerology. Hope you enjoyed that part as well. So as always, go ahead and visit our Facebook page, Your Brain on Hops, Twitter and Instagram, both at Brain on Hops. Give us some likes, give us some comments, let us know what you thought.
Love us.
And cheers, everyone.
Beerology, bitches!